Plenty of gardeners will happily inform you that they have uncovered plenty of incredible things in their gardens. Very few, however, will have unearthed buried treasure. There was one little girl who discovered a silver coin alongside her mother as they gardened, something which lit up her life. She had no idea what kind of lawful trouble this find would bring her years down the line. Britain was where Kate Hardy and her mother had their happy home. When the sun was out, the two would go out and begin weeding. Kate happened to be more interesting in the dirt than those pesky weeds, but her mother did not mind, loving to see her daughter having fun. Kate was scooping up piles of soil when a phenomenal shining thing caught her eye. The silver coin had revealed itself. Kate tucked the coin away in her dress, keeping the discovery a secret from her mother. This was her special prize. She was not about to let anyone else take it from her, as she bolted for the bathroom to clean it. The coin was ancient and in bad shape. It seemed to have been in the ground for many years. The young girl scrutinized and turned the coin around in her hand for 7 full days before hiding it deep inside her dresser drawer. With the passage of time, the coin would fade into the back of the girl's mind. In just a few years' time, however, the treasure would bring chaos into her life. Just months following her precious rediscovery, Kate's mom passed away. The coin's presence brought a flood of emotional nostalgia as she recalled how she had found the coin while gardening with her beloved mother. Kate could not cope with the death of her mother. The coin was all she had to keep her going, bringing her a maternal sense of comfort and happy memories. A long time passed before the mysterious coin became an even greater source of emotion. Kate decided that she would do her best to learn about the coin. At the age of 23, the coin's secrets could no longer be ignored. She promptly headed off to a local museum where she filled a professional in on the nature of her discovery. Kate needed them to aid her in uncovering the coin's secret worth. The museum's numismatist revealed to Kate that what she had found all those years ago was not in fact a coin, but something exceptionally unique. She was speechless. What could her childhood treasure actually be? The coin which that little girl unearthed turned out to be a historical United Kingdom piece of which there were only 4 of. The experts then revealed to Kate that what she had in her hand was called a pea fort, something far thicker and weightier than anything used as currency in the past. Any untrained eye would mistake this extraordinary pea fort as a fancy coin. Kate could not understand how something like this would have made its way to her backyard. Theories have been put forward that these are exemplars which were used as minters to estimate large amounts for merchants. Regardless, the experts were assured that it was highly valuable, if not the reason for this worth. The pie fort in Kate's hand could very well have been as old as 700 years. Her mind found it exceedingly difficult to process everything that the learned scholars were telling her. Talk about information overload. Kate's pie fort was a dedicatory item which had been created to honor the 1322 ascension to the French throne by Charles IV. This was one of England's most valued relics, obviously being worth a small fortune. Kate was more than convinced that she was in possession of a hugely expensive historical piece. The expert museum staff calculated the pea fort's worth to be around $3,000. Kate instantly began fantasizing about all the fantastic things she could do with that much money. Kate did have a sentimental attachment to the pea fort, however, as it was a motherly memento. She was then of 2 minds when it came to the sale of this piece. These memories and connections were invaluable, and nothing could bring her more comfort in the world. Kate had chosen a museum called Ludlow for help. Its illustrious members were insistent that she should pass ownership onto them, offering to call in more expert help to secure an official evaluation. Kate was being hard-pressed to sell the thing to them. Kate was easily able to turn the grasping museum employees down, heading back home with the item in hand with her silver treasure in hand. She was under the impression that she was now the rightful owner and that she would never let it go. She was oblivious to the impending legal battle on her hands. Kate was under the impression that the museum's threats were toothless. Unbeknownst to her, they were ready to bring in the big guns, having brought in Anthony Sivsey from the South Shropshire Police Department to help them with their case. That was when Kate opened her door one day to a couple of Severn police officers who handed her a court summons. Kate would soon be the first English person to be charged with breaking the Treasure Act of 1996. She was struggling to believe that this was happening to her. This was a completely innocent childhood find, and yet she was being regarded by the authorities like a criminal. The police were firm on their stand. Kate had committed a crime by keeping quiet on her treasure while not agreeing to hand the special coin over to the museum, which just made matters worse. The student felt like she had been completely misrepresented. Kate's worry turned to despair very quickly. It was then that she severely began missing her mother's presence as the police began swarming her house. She felt like there's no one she could turn to. The police put her in handcuffs and were doggedly committed to her prosecution. She was now facing the possibility of months behind bars. Kate was in need of the best legal help possible. Brendan Reedy, a lawyer from Shrewsbury with a commendable name in defense, would come to her aid. The gentleman was a veteran magistrate's court defense attorney within the Court of Appeals, the Crown Court, and the Magistrates' Court. He gave Kate his word that he would ensure her freedom and end this nightmare in no time at all. Brendan Reedy then constructed Kate's defense according to the naive age of 5 at which she found the treasure, something which held a significant emotional importance to her today. He backed up his claim of innocence with the fact that this coin had laid unused within Kate's property for most of the time she possessed it. The attorney and his client were hopeful that they had put together a convincing case. They were sure, however, that they faced an unsympathetic court, which would do its best to wrestle the coin out of Kate's hands. All they could do was wait. They did not try to deny Kate's hesitance to return the treasure, even after the relevant law had been made clear to her. While Kate realized that she should have handed in the Pidefort, it was the sentimental attachment to it which stayed her hand. Would you give up the only attachment you had left to a parent? You might think that Kate would have been scared into giving up her memento by now. Not so, as the more the authorities pushed, the stronger her resolve to keep it. This was not a case of greed or selfishness. Kate was psychologically unable to part ways with the Pidefort. Kate somehow managed to convince both the authorities and the museum workers that the Pidefort has been lost. There would be no more hunting for it. The museum's chances of attaining the treasure were finished. When Kate's case became publicly known, the people condemned the way that it had been handled. Very few people agreed with the way that this case had been handled. With widespread public outcry coming to Kate's defense, it was widely settled that Kate had rightfully come into possession of the Pidefort. The people decided that the law should have catered to the person who held the item, and not those who wanted it. Kate had been unfairly prosecuted and victimized in a bullying and victimizing manner. Alan had more to say on the matter. How could Kate have been legally prosecutable at the tender age of 9? Kids younger than 15 years were only legitimately prosecutable if it was known that they were sentient of their crimes. What was the outcome of this sensational treasure battle? Kate had safely hoarded the Pidefort for a full 14 years before she informed the authorities that it had disappeared. Of course, we suspect that Kate would never lose track of such a personally precious trinket. There was no way that someone fighting for their life over a coin would just drop it in the street. Kate is an inspiration to us all. The loyalty that she showed to her mother and to her principles would defy even the most crushing and terrifying odds. We cannot shame her for going to creative lengths to defend her rights. How would you have handled this situation if you were Kate? If you have lost a loved one, you might be able to empathize with Kate's determination and will. No one can take away what you found, especially when it holds an irreplaceable status in your heart.